a presentation from the League of Women Voters on the city and county propositions. And recording started? Good. Okay, so, oh, look at all the people on there. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so we're live. We're live on Zoom. You have a lot of stuff on your ballot, so please take notes. This will really help you when you fill out your final ballot. So please put your hands together for Emily from the League of Women Voters. And she probably wants to use one of these mics. And all you do here is you push, or if you want George, push. Okay. If you want to walk around, just say. Thank you. Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be really nice. That'd be great. Bye. Oh, it's okay. Like, I had like more than an hour to do this. You know what? Oh. Oh, that's cute. Okay. All right. Share screen? Working on that right now. Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, it looks correct. Okay. All right, got it. The other thing is this is. Did you share screen on Zoom? Yeah. You're sharing. Okay, so it's back. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Leong. I'm a fourth-year political science student at Cal State LA. And over the summer, I worked with the League of Women Voters of Greater Los Angeles to write a nonpartisan pros and cons analysis of LA City's ballot measures. There is a presentation later today at 1:30 for the county and state measures. I apologize for being late. As everybody knows, LA traffic is horrible. So thank you for coming. So the goal of the presentation is to get a general sense of the measure. The goal of the presentation is to get a general sense of the measure so that you as an audience and as the voting public can be informed about what you're voting on, right? So the goal of the presentation is for you to understand the issues, the context, and the arguments for and against the certain measures presented, right? Right now, I will be doing the LA City ones, but there is a presentation later for the county and the statewide ones at 1:30. So if you have time, please show up for that. So the 6 ballot measures are following reforms put on the ballot by the City Council to create more transparency and accountability. Any revisions to the LA City Charter have to get approved by voters before they go into effect, which is why you're seeing them on the ballot. That also explains why a couple of the ballot measures seem a little miscellaneous to you. What's notable about the order of the measures presented is that this is actually how they're going to go on the ballot, so you can vote in order. First, we have Measure DD, which is the measure to create an independent redistricting commission for LA City. This passes with a simple majority. And the question for this one is, should the city charter be changed to create an independent redistricting commission to redraw city council lines every 10 years in the city of Los Angeles? So the situation right now, the general gist of it, is that city officials currently retain power over the redistricting commission, which allows them to influence the results of the decision in their favor, right? And so the proposal really is to establish an independent redistricting commission, independent of the city council, to create more independence and more accountability and transparency, right? And we also have a section for fiscal effects analysis. So the annual costs will depend on how busy the commission will be, but it's expected to cost about 1.1 million for 2028 and 2.4 million for the 2029 to 2030 fiscal year. So supporters for Measure DD say that it would make the redistricting process more transparent, reduce influence from elected officials, and account for the voices of Angelinos. It's supported by Paul Krikorian, the city council president, and Nithya Raman, who's a council member. For a lot of the measures presented today, the supporters and opponents' arguments were drawn from arguments submitted to the city clerk. So many of the measures for many of the measures, there was nobody and or no group that submitted opposing arguments. So unfortunately, that's why there's no opposing argument. Next is Measure HH, which is on city governance. This also passes with a simple majority vote. And the question on this one is, should the city charter be changed to update language, introduce new rules, or specify responsibilities for city office to help improve city governance? So this one is covered by a variety of changes, and the goal with this one, it seems, is that the city council wanted to modernize city administration. And so part of the proposal is that the city controller has the increased power to audit, the city attorney has additional subpoena powers, and the ethics commission can review appointees' finances before they get appointed, along with several other changes. It's a really, really broad measure, right? And so because it's so broad, the city administrative officer determined that there wasn't enough information to make a fiscal effects analysis, and so there's none for this one. So supporters say that Measure HH's variety of changes increases transparency and reduces conflicts of interest. It's also supported by Paul Krikorian. You're going to see his name a lot today, and also Tim McOscar from the 15th district. And of course, no official arguments submitted to the city clerk. Next is Measure II. Like the last measure that we looked at, this one is also very broad and designed to modernize city governance. So this one is more about city administration and operations, and also passes with a simple majority vote. The question about this one is, should the city charter be amended to include gender in city non-discrimination rules, clarify public property and merchandise rules, and allow the airport commission to create free fees and regulations, among other changes? So right, so it's also designed to modernize and clarify the city's administration. The measure for this one was incredibly broad. So some of the most important changes that we've picked out is general amendments to the city charter, city operations, clarifications about the use of public property, and changes to airport-related departments. And so, just like the last one, the city administrative officer also decided that there simply wasn't enough information to go off of to create a fiscal effects analysis. Okay, so supporters say that selling food and merchandise allows the city to collect more funds, which decreases taxpayer burdens. And changes like electronic signatures and better transportation around the airport can create more convenience for everybody. This one's also supported by Paul Krikorian. And of course, no official arguments submitted to the city clerk. So Measure ER is about the City Ethics Commission. This one also passes with a simple majority vote. This one we expect to be very important to voters, given the numerous scandals surrounding the LA City Council. But the question for this one is, should the Los Angeles City Charter be amended to provide the Los Angeles City Ethics Commission with more power and operational independence, excuse me. So the situation right now is that members of the Los Angeles Ethics Commission are appointed by Los Angeles City Council members, and there are restrictions on who is able to serve as a commissioner. So there are some regulations in place. The proposal is to increase the fine for ethics violations, clarify the process for grounds of removal, and restrict and create further restrictions on who is allowed to serve on the commission. Right. So for fiscal effects, the amendment sets a budget of 1.7 million for the City Ethics Commission annually to be adjusted based on the city budget. Revenues from the penalties from the ethics violations might be able to help offset the cost of operations. So supporters say that the amendment makes punishments for ethics violations harsher by tripling the current maximum fine. By separating the Ethics Commission budget from the City Council and by allowing the Ethics Commission to retain independent legal counsel, the Ethics Commission will gain more independence. This one's also supported by Krikorian, and there were no official arguments submitted against it. Next is Measure FF, which might seem a little strange to voters because it's about police and peace officer pensions. This one is also going to pass with a simple majority vote. The question for this one is, should officers from the police, airport, harbor, recreation, and parks departments be transferred to the Los Angeles Fire and Police Pension Plan, which will be paid for by the city? So the situation for this one is also to modernize city governance and to provide increased benefits to city employees. So the proposal is that peace officers who work in these departments do similar work to the LAPD, right? And so the plan is to transfer them to the current pension plan that they're on, which is the LACERS plan, to the LAFPP pension plan. So the fiscal effects for this one is pretty big. The annual cost is estimated to be 6.3 million, according to the city administrative officer, but the one-time transfer cost could be much higher at 109.5 million. Supporters say it will be easier for the city to manage, would give officers who perform similar work the same benefits regardless of department, and would stop officers from trying to move into different departments for a specific pension plan. This one is supported by a variety of people, several council members, the president of the Los Angeles Airport Peace Officers Association, chief park ranger, and the mayor. And of course, there were no official arguments submitted for this charter amendment. Okay. Next is Measure LL, similar to the redistricting commission for the city of Los Angeles. This one's also born out of an attempt to respond to the scandals around city council. This one also passes with a simple majority vote. The question around this one is, should the Los Angeles City Charter be revised to add an independent redistricting commission for the Los Angeles Unified School District? Right. So city officials also still retain power over the LAUSD Redistricting Commission, allowing them to influence the results of the district in their favor. The proposal will establish guidelines for how commissioners will be chosen and makes the LAUSD redistricting process more transparent and publicly accessible, right? And so the costs for this one will also be determined by how busy the commission is. And the city administrative officer estimated that it would take 1.1 million in the 2028 to 2029 partial fiscal year and would cost 2.5 billion in the next full year. Right? So supporters say that the new commission would reduce influence from elected officials in the redistricting process and that it would allow the chance for the voices of Angelinos to be heard rather than the opinions of elected officials. And so we have support from Dan Vicuña from Common Sense, which is a pro-democracy, pro-transparency nonprofit group. We have Jackie Goldberg, who's a board member for the LAUSD, and John Kim from Catalyst, California, which is a nonprofit focused on racial justice. And of course, there were no opposing arguments submitted against this charter amendment. Next is Measure US, which is a bond measure. The measure is to authorize $9 billion in bonds for the LAUSD facilities upgrades. This one, unlike the other ones, has to pass with a supermajority of 55%, simply because it has to do with property taxes. And so the question about this one is, should we authorize $9 billion in bonds to upgrade LAUSD school facilities with audits and citizens' oversight? Right. So, of course, the LAUSD school district covers education for the city of LA, and the district needs to replace or update aging facilities with 60% of schools being older than 50 years. The proposal is to pass a bond measure so that the district has the budget to make repairs and upgrades, which are what's needed beyond simple maintenance. Right. For fiscal effects, the bond would be paid back with interest by increasing property taxes for about 35 years, and the total repayment amount would be about 16 billion. For this one, we do have an opponent's arguments. So, to start off, supporters say that Measure US would modernize aging school buildings, improve facilities for safety, earthquakes, and disability access, upgrade plumbing, electrical, HVAC, replace roofs, provide learning technology, and create green outdoor classrooms and schoolyards. So we have a variety of supporters here. We have Yoli Flores from Families and Schools, which seems to be a student parent education group. And then we have Jean Hale from the Greater LA African American Chamber of Commerce, and Dr. A. McQuarters, who is the president of the Los Angeles Trade Technical College, Charmaine Morales, who is the president of both a nurse and both of nurse and healthcare worker union, and also Ernesto Medrano from Building Trade, which is a union council for construction workers. Our opponents are the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, which is an organization that opposes tax raises. Mike Antonovich, a retired LA County supervisor, and Jack Humphreeville, who is a journalist for a newsletter called City Watch. Okay. At this point, I'll be taking questions from the audience.
So for the last one, that raises taxes on only property taxes or just taxes like throughout LA County?
I believe it should be just property taxes.
Oh, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Are there any other questions in the audience?
So for the Citizens Ethics Reform Charter Amendment, do we know how that board of citizens is going to be selected?
For the City Ethics Commission?
Yes.
Let's see. I remember that they had, hold on, I do have some notes on this. I apologize. I rushed in today, so. All right. So for the City Ethics Commission, the amendment, if passed, will still allow the mayor, city attorney, controller, president of the council, and president pro tempore to appoint commission members. Right. So it's not the reform doesn't completely divorce the City Ethics Commission from the City Council. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
When you talked about the ethic committee costs,
Mhm.
and then also the redistricting costs,
Okay.
what is the large chunks of that? It felt like it was, they're not building buildings. So I was curious, there's 7 million and a couple million for other costs.
Yeah. I suppose that those costs are for the functions of the commission themselves, right? Whatever activities they will do.
Salary?
I suppose that may be the case, right?
For a lot of these, like especially the last one you mentioned about
The
you know-
bonds?
Yeah. how do they decide, like, because the opponents said that, like, they would be taxing, like, average people more? How do they know that, like, they're gonna be doing that instead of just reallocating, like, money? Like, from money that they've already, like, gotten from taxes?
Oh, so how do you know that the city council will be taxing?
Like, taxing people more instead of just taking the funds they already have from taxes? And like,
Hmm. To be honest, I'm not sure how to answer this question. I suppose that they have to review the city budget, right? Um, yeah, but bonds is usually how we pay for uh, large changes to schools and things like that. So, property taxes seem to be the norm for this kind of change. Anybody else?
I apologize if this is like a dumb question,
No,
but
please go ahead.
I know that Prop 2, I think, is on the 20, it's California, right? It's a state I guess proposition that kind of is the same thing as Measure US. How do you think that would work? Because what is it? It's like the same bond system and it's the same amount of money. So wouldn't it, is it like what do you think about that, I guess? Like in your personal opinion? Like does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that does make sense. So Prop 2 also does the same thing statewide as the last measure about bonds, right? That's the question. I think usually some of this is also handled locally. This one's kind of a hard question for me to ask because I was really uh focused on writing my measures. And also the last measure, actually, I have a team working with me, and so somebody else wrote that one, and I wrote the rest. Um, and so, yeah, but usually this does happen that there are measures statewide and then more local measures. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the best I can do to answer your question.
So when it comes to redoing LUSD district lines, who's in charge of the committee and how would they be elected and how the process would be? Would it be very transparent or would it be again under city council rule?
Okay, I do have more notes on this. Right, so the amendment proposed would prevent former Board of Education officials, consultants, and their family members from serving on the commission. Let me see. There are more efforts towards transparency, like public hearings and live translations that you can attend and look at. I think there was also, I think they will also want to implement something for Spanish speakers. Let me see, so that it could be accessible to everybody. Right, the amendment would also require the commission to provide public meeting records, public mapping tools, and other redistricting related materials so that the public can have access to whatever the commission's doing, right? Oh, and I hope that answers the question. Oh, do we have any more questions? Is that?
Last chance because you're going to be voting soon.
Oh. Follow up?
And then another question on the LUSD bonds, because the concern are taxes. And as Californians and Angelinos, we're under a city tax that most people are unhappy with. But when it comes to redoing LUSD districts, would the bonds affect property tax as well? So for example, let's say you have a school in a low income area. will they receive the same bonds and benefits as that of a school in a richer income area?
I'm not exactly sure if it's a flat tax or a proportional tax, but it will affect property taxes.
All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, bonds, the city, LAUSD, everyone in that district will have, if it's a specific bond for LAUSD, everyone who lives in that district does pay property tax, but it's not a regressive, it's a progressive tax, because if you have a huge property and you bought it recently, you're going to pay a lot more than if you have a small property, because property tax is, it's based on the kind of property that you have. So, okay. I'm sorry, it's based on ownership, right, right. So whatever property tax you have, your property tax is a fixed amount based on when you bought the property. It's 1% of what it was worth when you bought it. We could do a whole seminar on Prop 13, which kind of messes everything up. But you're right, everyone pays a certain amount in addition to your regular property tax, which is based on what the property was worth when you bought it. But any of you who are renters, you are not specifically paying for it. Your landlord will pay for that. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? Okay, so I seem to have exhausted the amount of questions in the audience. All right. Anyways, thank you all for coming to the presentation today. I know it was short. I also know I was late. Traffic was really bad. But if you want to do similar work to this, looking at the ballot measures for LA City, and if you want to get involved in local government, please feel free to contact the email below and to join the League of Women Voters. They do have a student membership that is free. So yeah, and thank you everybody for coming. All right.
Hello, everyone. So just if you didn't know, we have a lot of clubs in the back. So we have the League of Women Voters, California for Ranked Choice Voters, the Pierce Democrats, and then the city clerk is here to help everyone register to vote. So make sure to check them out. And then at 11, around 11, we're going to have a candidate, LA City Council District 2 candidate forum with Adrian Nazarian and Jillian Burgos with Rita Zerwin from the League of Women Voters moderating. Thank you so much to Emily for speaking. We were one more round of applause. And then, yeah, go ahead and you can check out the tables in the back while we wait for the candidates. Thank you.
Than I anticipated.
I. Yeah, that's good. But it's still. For now. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So go to more.